Okay, Darren, we got corn stalks in the background here. It's gonna go to soybeans next year. What would you suggest a farmer does for pre-emerge herbicide?
Well, you know what? There are a lot of different choices out there when you think about grass control, broadleaf control, or trying to control them both. And then also you've got the factor of, are you going to do some tillage out there, like there has been some tillage done here? And, you know, are you going to go no-till? There's some different choices.
All right, so I'm just going to pose some questions for you, and then you tell me what you do. All right back here, it's going to be field cultivated in the spring, not had a lot of grass problems, but I'm super concerned about Roundup resistant broadleaf weeds. What would you do?
Well, I like using a combination. Personally, I like to use something like a Valor, Authority, Sencor, or a premix that contains one of those products because they're the best on broadleaves by far.
Specifically which weeds?
Well, when you think about pigweeds, when you think about lamb's quarters, those small-seeded broadleaf weeds, we do a really nice job with those as a pre-emerge herbicide. You don't even have to see them pop up in your field. I like that. But what we like to do in our farm, we also have some grass pressure. We know there's going to be some foxtail out there. If you're going to do some tillage, I like Treflan. It's cheap. If you're not doing tillage, you could throw in PROWL. That doesn't need to be worked in, but you do need to apply that a little bit early so you get some rain to kind of move it into the ground.
All right, now what's your opinion? You mentioned Valor. Are you going to do it before you till or after you till in the spring?
Well, if you're going to do a combination application, like say you're doing PROWL Valor, I'd do the tillage and then I'd put the PROWL Valor on. If you're going to do Treflan Valor, well then you probably need to do some tillage. Now Treflan's very forgiving of tillage. If you get it a little too deep or you don't have the best mixing activity with your tillage equipment, you can still get pretty good control with Treflan. Valor is not so forgiving. It likes to be very shallow in the top ½ inch of soil. If you're going to mix it in 3 or 4 inches deep, it's probably not going to work very well.
Shockingly, I'm going to disagree with Darren. I would do PROWL Valor before I do the tillage, or at the time I'm doing the tillage, and that's most likely what we're going to do. The reason why I don't like to see PROWL used after you plant is because PROWL can be a little hard on those sprouts that are just coming up.
Hold on, you didn't say after planting. You said you're going to do some tillage, and then you could put it on either after the tillage or before the tillage. Now, if you're talking about planting, I absolutely want that to go on before you plant. I don't want to put PROWL on after you plant.
Yeah, but you're going to till and then you're planting like the same day.
I understand that, but if you're going to till early, that's a different story.
All right, okay, so let's say that this was no-till back here, complete no-till, and in no-till, typically we don't have as many grass problems, we just have broadleaf problems, so I'm asking you on the broadleaf side again, what would you do different if it's no-till?
Well, if you don't have a grass issue, maybe you've got some certain type of broadleaves like nightshade that we have on our farm a little bit, maybe you want to have the Authority that has a little bit of pursuit in there, like Authority Assist. Or if you've got something that you think Sencor is going to do a good job on, you could go Authority MTZ and have that metribuzin in there.
All right, let's talk real quick about Sonic and Authority first, because those are combination broadleaf products, but they have first rate in there, and we really only want to use first rate one time in soybeans. So if you're even thinking you might use some first rate post-emerge, we don't want to use it pre.
Yes, but that's easy to say, Brian, but then you start thinking about no-till and you say, man, I got mare's tail, I need the best thing possible, and it could be Roundup resistant.
And what's the best thing?
Well, I think the best thing's Authority first.
Right.
and it works, it works pretty well.
Yep, well, Authority first is the best thing for mare's tail, but again, if you want to use it post, you probably shouldn't be using it pre, but that mare's tail thing's probably going to outweigh the fact that you want to use it post.
Now, if you want to save it for post, you could do something different. Maybe use Ignite in your burn down. Ignite does a nice job, especially as you jack that rate up a little bit. You could use some Kicksaw or some Sharpen out there. Maybe you say, well, for my pre, I'm going to do Optil. So I have some Pursuit and I have some Sharpen in there. That could be good too. The challenge with soybeans is I don't think you can use a high enough rate to rely on the Kicksaw alone. You need a little kicker with it. Now that may be Roundup if you don't have Roundup resistant mare's tail, but let's face it, most of the country has Roundup resistant mare's tail.
Well, let's get a little more into these Roundup resistant weeds. We're seeing major issues in our area with water hemp. Let's say I have an absolute train wreck with water hemp. What I would tell you to do is not just have one product out, have two. So let's say you're going to till something in. That's where I definitely would want to have both Treflan and Valor, or both PROWL and Authority, one of the Authority products, maybe Authority Assist. And I really, in effect, have 3 products out there. But the point, well, all I'm saying is don't think that one product that normally has 95% control is enough when you've got an absolute disaster. 95% looks great if you got 100 weeds out in the field, but if you have 100 million weeds out in the field, 95% just is not going to cut it. So you've really got to hammer it. And remember that a lot of these products are pretty reasonable. Treflan only costs $3 or $4. I mean, PROWL is what, $7, $8 works. I mean, it's not like it's that expensive. So I don't like to spend money either. But the way I look at it is if I have weeds out there, I know I'm gonna lose bushels off my crop, and that's not a good thing.
Well, and you know, you say 100 million weeds, oh, whatever, Brian's just exaggerating. No. Guys, I was down in the Boot Heel in Missouri. I was down through Arkansas again this summer, and I see the problems with Roundup-resistant pigweed. And one of the university researchers I talked to this year said that one of the pigweed plants they looked at had 5 million seeds on it. 5 million on one plant. So 5 million seeds per plant. It only takes 20 of these plants to make 100 million weeds in one field, and that's not uncommon in that area.
Well, I'm glad I didn't have to count 5 million weed seeds out there. But the other thing with this pre-emerge talk is, I know it's the middle of the winter right now, and you're probably not thinking about, well, what am I going to use pre-emerge in my soybeans? But you need to plan ahead, because if you don't have that plan going in, it gets real easy to say, well, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I'll just plant the beans and then I'll figure it out. By that point, you've already given up on some of your best options for weed control. So all we're saying here is, if you've got weed problems, you've got to do something before you plant the beans, or at least have your plan going in and make time to get it done.
We certainly want to have time to control our weed of the week. We'll show you what might work coming up later in the show.